Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry I've been slacking on videos lately. It's been hard to find some of the motivation, but I'm back and we're going to start off with the history of EMS and modern ambulances. Now, we're going to mainly be focused on US history, but the real roots of any medical service can be found back in the days of Florence Nightingale and how nurses became to be. I'm sure some of you probably know that story, and that's thanks to battlefield medicine and how pretty much any medical service got started was due to necessity of battlefield medicine. So first we're going to go back to, for the US, it'll be during the Civil War in the 1860s. And modern EMS was born in blood on the Civil War battlefield, back when medical care was amputations and basically bottles of booze. And they noticed that not only do they need medical care in the tents and in the field there, but they needed a way to get people from the field into those medical tents. Now, there is a Dr. Jonathan Letterman, known as the father of battlefield medicine, which came up with many modern practices of battlefield medicine, including triage and treatment there in the field. And he came up with the first ambulance corps in the United States Army. And that was the first system that used triage and transport as a part of its system. And whenever that happened, it really revolutionized battlefield medicine. But then also, after the war ended, it really revolutionized medicine here at home. In cities such as Cincinnati and New York, with large population centers, battlefield medics were taking that practice back to their cities and using it to transport patients. Now, back in the day, it was mainly on wagons. They'd toss people up on the wagon, take them over to somewhere to be medically treated, and that's how it all started. And the hospital service there, particularly one notable, the Bellevue Hospital Ambulance Corps, which was based out of the Bellevue Hospital in New York, was famous for carrying a quart of brandy for their patients. That was what was considered the advanced life support of 1869. Basically, it served as an analgesic, which is something to slightly sedate and ease the pain of their patients. Now, of course, at the time, they didn't realize that alcohol had all the blood thinning capabilities that it does. And so they did what they could and were working with what they had. Now, from there, it really does just fast forward to about the 1940s and 50s is when we really had a change in what was happening with ambulance services and as far as transports. It didn't change much. Of course, the vehicles became more modern with actual motorized vehicles in the 1940s and 50s. But in the 1940s and 50s, the primary mode of transport was either the police in their transport wagons when they would respond to an emergency, or the second option that we started to see, and more towards 1960s and beginning of the 70s was when it became popular, is the funeral homes would start taking people in their hearses, because hearses were the only thing that were long enough to carry someone lying down besides the police transport wagons. So it was kind of an up in the air. And a lot of times they were called combination cars. So they were outfitted as basic medical, but then also as a hearse to take you to the mortuary. And they kind of gambled on what would happen when they got there. Either you were too far gone and decided, okay, you're being transported to the funeral home, or I think we can make it to the hospital. So we're going to fly as fast as we can to the hospital. And it really was fly by night, drive as fast as you can, and get them there. There was no medical treatment. There was no heart monitors, no oxygen, nothing to stop bleeding, um, other than maybe a few rags. But it really was just pick you up, scoop, and go to the nearest hospital. Our next milestone is in 1966. There was something called the White Paper. It was an accidental death and disability, the neglected disease of modern society. It was a science paper published, or a science report that was published, that shocked the nation. It was taking statistics and showing that you were more likely to be saved in the battlefields of Vietnam with battlefield medicine than you were if you were in a car crash in the US. And it highlighted a need of something like battlefield medicine in U.S. society to be able to pick people up, treat them, and transport them to hospitals. And that, out of that, we had the birth of the first EMT and paramedic training in the U.S. It's kind of considered the big bang of EMS and kind of what got it started into its modern suite, into the ambulances that are literally advanced ALS trucks that have heart monitors, and some systems even have stuff as advanced as mobile MRIs, and some paramedics even have medical directions to perform sutures in the field. Now, that's a very vague and a very out there practice that doesn't happen in a lot of places. So, you paramedics, don't come for me. There are places out there that do have those medical directives. It's just very far and few between. And we're talking places that are still 40 minutes to an hour from a hospital setting, and they have to do some things in the field that aren't exactly conventional. So we still have a ways to go as far as really advancing the medicine part and being able to transport someone quickly in very rural areas. But the next boom we really see is most of the United States at this point is still operating with their funeral homes, with their hearse. And in the 1970s, really big cities started to incorporate things into their fire departments and their hospitals, and actually outfitting purpose built vehicles to transport patients or rescue patients. And one of the big TV shows that launched all of this was a TV show called Emergency. And it was in 1972. The TV show Emergency hit the airwaves. Johnny and Roy, Squad 51. You old timers will know what I'm talking about. If you've never seen it, look it up. Watch a few old episodes wherever you can find them. Uh, Actually, an interesting show. And that's the first time people really saw what a paramedic or an EMT was. And it's the first time they were exposed to it, because a lot of these places had TV, but they didn't have modern hospitals or big cities where they ran rescue squads or emergency services. And it really made a lot of these rural towns or smaller towns in America want to have that type of service. It made them be like, why don't we have that? I want a program like that. So that became a big boom for firefighters and paramedics in the United States, was the TV show Emergency. So next time you see the rig screaming down the street, just remember there's over 150 years of history there that got us up to this point. And the big boom has been from the 70s to modern day, when, cutting people out of vehicles and rescuing them, fine, but then we've incorporated more and more battlefield medicine, such as administering fluids in the field, and carrying narcotics and different types of drugs and analgesics, and even being able to intubate somebody in the field if necessary. Paramedics even have trikes or trichotomies in their tool set, in their medical directives a lot of times, which is actually cutting a hole in your throat and putting a tube in as a last ditch effort to help you breathe. And things that EMTs and paramedics do are very advanced and something that people don't realize. They do all of this for very little pay, too many hours. Ask me how I know. Yes, I've moved on to dispatch, but I will always have a special place in my heart for EMS and the time I spent working on the ambulance. They have some of the most advanced medical directives without being a doctor, and they do all of this in the field, bouncing down the road, people screaming at them, blood flying all over the place. It really is amazing how we've gotten to this point. I hope you guys have learned something today. I hope these videos are at least somewhat entertaining. And we'll see you on the next one. If there's anything you want to see, or a history of some type of first responder or emergency service you want to see, let me know. My next one's probably going to be the history of firefighters. That one can get really interesting. But until next time, we'll see you. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. It always helps and helps me grow. Have a good one.